Hi everybody, I am outside in the sun in my backyard. Full disclosure, the dogs are out here, so anything could happen at any moment, but I know y'all like it when my videos are outside. So got this beautiful tree behind me holding me up here, sending us all some support and some love because we are moving through some big stuff right now. So I have a healing circle tonight, and we're focused on claiming your journey. And I've been meditating on and sitting with that particular theme and what the guides really mean by that. And, it at its core, it's about empowerment. But when I really look at the theme of it, it's about how do we claim whatever it is that we're working through, whatever part of our healing journey we're on, whatever part of our awakening journey we're on, whatever thing we're moving through in our life, and how do we claim that and make it about us and not do it for all of the people around us, not change for anybody else, but really make change for us. And one of the things that we talked about last month in Healing Circle was this idea of being a way shower. And I talked with those who joined that session about, when you're an empath or you're a sensitive, what we've thought being a way shower meant was that we have to take on the emotions and the energy and transmute everything for everyone around us, which can be part of our mission here. But really what I think we're here to do as a way shower, as an empath, is to give voice to emotions, to speak to the emotions that nobody's speaking to bring that energy to the surface. And it doesn't necessarily have to be us emoting that or processing that in our body, but we can just talk about it. And so, a lot of times what I do in these videos is I do that. I talk about what's happening in the collective. I talk about the energy that I'm feeling as an empath, what I'm picking up on. That's kind of what most of these videos are about. And so I think that's a really important thing to own, that, as empaths, we are always picking up what's happening around us, and we can claim our journey by choosing to process the emotions that are actually ours. We can speak voice into what we're feeling, but we don't have to process everything in our body. So with that in mind, I want to talk with you a little bit about what's happening in the collective, what I'm seeing, and what's happening in my personal experience, what I'm processing through. Because I think many of you are probably feeling the same thing, or you wouldn't be watching this video. So, we are in what I would classify as an ego death corridor right now. Um, it's a interesting energy because it's different than when we move through a death corridor where there are a lot of people leaving the planet. What I'm witnessing right now there are a lot of versions of us leaving the planet right now, meaning that old versions of us are falling away or dying. And I can speak to what I'm seeing with my clients, and I can also really speak to what's happening for me. So I am right squarely in the middle of a grief release right now. I went away for 5 days to Asheville last week by myself and took some time to kind of just be with my own energy and work through, like, what is this next chapter of growth that I'm moving through really about, and kind of dissect some things and figure some things out. And in the middle of the night, one night, I had a really significant awareness come in that part of what is falling away from me is the version of me that didn't speak into the emotions of the room, that didn't use her voice, that didn't take what she needed to take care of herself, that did feel like it was her responsibility to do the work for everybody else. And like that part of me, that version of me, that aspect of me, I guess you could say, is dying. And I had that realization. I did some big clearing work on places where I was really disempowered and in a very different frequency than the empowered way shower that I have been teaching about. And that's a big part of what we're going to do in Healing Circle tonight, is to clear some of those disempowering energies away, those self-sabotaging energies away. And I got back from Asheville thinking, oh, I'm going to be so energized. Like, I took this time for myself. I really sat with myself, and I got back, and I have just been on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster because this grief that has come up is really substantial, and it's forced me to really be clear in articulating with my partner like the parts of me that are dying and what I'm no longer going to be holding up in our relationship. And I, I think that there may be others of you that, whether you're in partnership or not, are going through an ego death, right? The ego is here to protect us and to hold up versions of us that we've created to protect us, created to kind of keep us safe. And when we go through an ego death corridor, it does feel like we're dying. It does feel like, part of us is falling away, part of us is dying, because that's what's happening, right? And so that's kind of the energy right now. We're being asked to be with these parts as they come up and say, do I want to take this with me for the rest of the year? Is this something that here in these winter months, especially here in the northern hemisphere, that I just want to let fall to the earth, that I want to kind of release to be composted? And when we're going through a release of a version of us and we've kind of come to a conclusion that there's something that we've been doing or a version of us that's existed that we no longer want to carry forward, there is a lot of grief. And we don't talk a lot about grieving that kind of stuff. We talk a lot, and it's very acceptable in our society for us to grieve people, to grieve relationships, sometimes to grieve job losses and those kinds of things. But we don't talk about enough, in my opinion, the process of grieving the versions of us that are dying, that are falling away, that maybe were created to get us through a certain stage of our life or to protect us from something, and we have decided we no longer want to carry that, and it's time for that to die. We don't talk about what that looks like. But I will tell you from my own personal experience that grief is real. It is difficult. It is, the word I'm hearing to use is time consuming. It takes a lot of energy. It it kind of, it feels heavy. For me, when I'm moving through something like this, I can kind of feel it in my heart, and I can be with that sadness, and I can see that sadness and that grief, just like if you've lost someone, it kind of opens the doorway of the heart, and we kind of get greater access to the heart field when we are moving through a grief process. But man, it's hard. It's really hard, especially because the things that normally wouldn't be a big deal when we're grieving get really fucking hard. Like washing the dishes and cooking a meal for ourselves and taking a shower and just things that normally like we don't even bat an eye about. They're just part of our daily process. When we're grieving and we're moving through that grief and we're letting it come to the surface, it's kind of exhausting, and it requires a lot of our energy to be with that grief and to give it its due, really, so that it can move us forward on our journey. And it often feels really hard to people. It feels really hard to do your usual day-to-day stuff. So if this is something that you're feeling, I just want you to know that you're not alone, right? That you might be walking through this ego death corridor. You might be letting a version of yourself die with me, at the same time as I am. And I just want to give voice to that because I do feel it in the collective. The other thing that I want to speak to that is really interesting to me is that, this claim your journey theme, I'm seeing it show up in how are we going to claim and activate our divine feminine, our divine masculine energies. My husband and I have been having a lot of really kind of interesting conversations about expected roles and the masculine and feminine dynamic. And what I've been articulating to him is that I am stepping into a new phase of being in my feminine body, a new level of being in that. And some of the roles that I've played that I thought were my divine feminine truth are really just not my truth. Like, for example, I don't really like to cook. unless I'm on vacation and I have time and it feels easy and I have plenty of space. Day to day, that's not something that brings me joy most of the time. There are moments where that feels good to me, but most of the time it's not something that I really enjoy, and it kind of frankly sucks most of the time. Like I feel like it's a bother to have to cook food for myself, and something I'm working on of like loving that, but I also am accepting like, hey, maybe that's not the way that my feminine energy wants to present itself in this lifetime. And I do like to paint and create and sing and dance, and that feels really natural for my feminine energy. And I am a Taurus and I like to make things beautiful. I like to create a beautiful space. I do like to do certain things to make the space look beautiful, and that feels good for me to be in my feminine. And so I just wanted to give voice to that too, because that's coming up a lot in my sessions. And then it's also coming up of like, how do we want to be in our divine masculine? Do we want to be the warrior and the protector all the time, or do we want to hold a softer version of the masculine? Maybe it's a quiet intelligence that we want to hold as our masculine. Maybe it's how we use our body and our brain in a way that feels like structure and form, but doesn't feel so overtly masculine that we want to exist in. And I think all of this is fluid and it's all unique to the individual. And so you may also be finding right now that it's not just like a version of you that had a behavior that's falling away, but maybe the way that you've shown up in your feminine or in your masculine energy, there may be a false energy there that is falling away. Something that no longer feels in alignment might be falling away. And so that's what I'm seeing in a lot of my sessions. I'm working with a lot of people on like making space for these parts of themselves that they really haven't allowed to be at the table, that feel natural and good to them, and kind of letting some things fall away that don't feel natural and good to them, that feel forced or feel put upon in some way, or they feel put upon by holding that in some way. So those are just the few of the things that I'm seeing, and I hope that you find this helpful. I hope that if you're moving through some grief, if you're moving through something, really big in your heart space, that this information, this sharing helps you. The other thing that I'll say before I close is that when you're moving through something really big and you've done the inner work to bring it to the surface, you've looked at it, you say, wow, I don't really want to carry this anymore, I want it to fall away, I'm ready for this to shift. When you're in the process of it shifting and the grief and the falling away is happening, don't rush that process. Because if you rush that process, chances are that there is some step or some knowing or something important that's going to get missed, and you're going to have to turn back around at some point and grab that energy and deal with it. And so if you're moving through something really big right now, and the feminine emotional energy in you, because we all have feminine emotional energy inside of us, regardless of how we gender identify, if that feminine emotional energy in you is saying, hey, I need a real soft place to land right now. I need to go outside and just like sit up against a tree with my eyes closed in the sun. I need to take a bath. I need to take a nap. I need to go for a run. I need to play with my dogs. I need to paint. I need to create. Whatever that part of you is saying, take time to honor it, because there are a million things that are going to continue to be on your to-do list. It's not going to go away. There's always going to be a million things that feel important, but there is nothing more important than this process of healing that you're going through. Whatever it is that's coming up for you, there's literally nothing more important. Because as you take the time for that to pass through your being, for you to honor whatever it is that's coming up for you, that's where the real growth happens. That's where the real integration happens. That's where the real next steps happen. And here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in winter, right? I had a conversation when I was in Asheville with my friends Becky and Jason, and we were talking about how trees take energy and carbon dioxide in, and they turn it back into oxygen. And I was like, well, what happens when they don't have any leaves? Like, how do they do that? And I Googled it, and they don't do it. Like, when they don't have any leaves, they're not converting carbon dioxide to oxygen, which is like part of their purpose on this planet. Only one small part of their purpose, but that's part of what they're doing to help Mother Earth. Even the trees take a break, right? Yes, they're still growing, they're still standing, but they're not doing their quote unquote job that they came here to do in co-creation with Mother Earth. They are taking a break. And the other plants that are evergreen, that have a different way of being on this planet, are still doing that work, and we're not dead, right? There's still enough oxygen here. There's still enough to go around, but there probably is less. There's probably less chi flowing, right? And so we should be a little bit more inward right now. We should be slowing down. We should be taking time to just be with our feelings. This is what we are invited to do right now. So just food for thought. Maybe that'll help you to give yourself a little bit more grace. If you're seeing this video and you want to join our monthly healing circle, that's happening tonight, Wednesday, February 8th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But if you catch this later and you want to get the recording, you can always do that. We're going to be working on claiming our journey. What I really see us working on tonight is we're going to work on what I call mind prisons, places where our mental body gets stuck in loops that self-sabotages us and takes us out of our empowerment, and takes us into that shame spiral, or that guilt, or that worry spiral. And we're going to be working on kind of really activating our center point and our empowerment energy. So those are the two things that I know that we'll be working on tonight. I'm sure there will be other things that come forward. So I hope this video finds you well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this page so you don't miss any of my Zen Withins'day updates. I do these every Wednesday. So I hope to see you back here on my page soon. Have a great day. Bye.